We need to write the most reasonable metric length unit in each blank, and our choices are kilometers, meters, centimeters, and millimeters. Now, if you've lived in the US all your life, you're probably not very familiar with any of these. So we'll kind of talk about each one. If you've been to other countries, you might have seen them before, because pretty much the US and a few other countries are the only ones that use the system that we use. Everybody else sticks with this metric system. So let's just kind of see here what each one of these is. Meters here, that's the basic unit of length in the metric system. And a meter is really close to the same length as a yard. Yard has 3 feet in it. You might be familiar with a yardstick. A meter is just slightly longer than a yardstick, but they're very, very close. A centimeter is what you get when you take that meter stick and cut it up into 100 pieces. Well, if you're familiar with yardsticks, which we said were the same, and inches, there's only 36 inches in a yard. So if you cut it up into 100 pieces, this centimeter is smaller than an inch. So that's what you'd use to measure smaller things. And then millimeter is what you get when you take your centimeter and cut it up into 10 pieces. So it's very, very small. You'd just be measuring really small things with that. If we go the other direction, kilometers or kilometers, that's what you get when you take 1,000 meters end to end. Okay, that would be for measuring long distances. In the US, we'd measure those things with miles. Now, a kilometer is not as long as a mile, but if you're measuring long distances, that's what you would use. So on these problems, you need to see what you're measuring. Is it something that's really long? You might think about what would I measure that with in the US system. And you also need to see what the number is. So if there was a lot of them, it might change your mind on which unit to use. So let's think about this. My thumb is 20 somethings wide. Well, you might be able to measure that with millimeters or centimeters, because both of those are pretty small. And so you could probably get that in, but we have 20 of them. That's kind of a lot. So centimeters, think about things that you might measure with inches. It is smaller than an inch, but to have 20 of them, that would be a pretty wide thumb. So this one should be in millimeters. The next one says the two towns are 40 somethings apart. Well, you might think, well, what would we measure distance between towns in the US? Well, that would be with miles. And so in the metric system, you would use kilometers. And a basketball court is 30 somethings long. So a basketball court, that's kind of long. So this should be meters. Remember, meters like a yardstick, so yeah, it would take probably about 30 of those to get to the end of a basketball court. So you kind of have to have a good idea of what these might relate to when you're trying to fill in these units.